Democrats float a tax on investments to help pay for $3.5 trillion budget plan. So let's get right into the story. So congressional Democrats are floating a slew of taxes to help cover their $3.5 trillion budget plan, including new levies on the wealthy. So Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden has introduced proposals for taxes on so-called derivatives, which are financial contracts linked to assets, as well as carried interest, which generally is received by hedge fund managers and private equity firms. Now, these measures call for mark-to-market tax, meaning investors may pay levies annually based on market value. It may pave the way for a broader push for similar levies on capital gains, according to a Tax Foundation analysis. Now, currently, investors don't pay taxes on gains or claim a deduction for losses until they sell. However, mark-to-market levies would occur every year, even if they still own the asset. The country's wealthiest, who profited immensely during the pandemic, have not been paying their fair share, said Wyden in a statement provided by a spokesperson. They can defer, and then never pay tax on billions in gains. So future mark-to-market tax proposals may aim to stop billionaires from delaying taxes for decades or even indefinitely by passing wealth to their heirs, according to a list obtained by CNBC. No nurse or firefighter or teacher in America can play those games, said Wyden. They paid their taxes with every paycheck and are rightfully outraged when they read about the wealthiest few paying so little while they are working hard to make ends meet. We need to fix this broken system, he said. Now, taxpayers with income of more than $500,000 received about 72% of all realized capital gains in 2016, according to the IRS data. A mark-to-market tax on billionaires may affect roughly 600 Americans and raise hundreds of billions in revenue, according to some estimates. However, it may be difficult to predict how much such a measure may bring in, said Leonard Berman, Institute Fellow at the Urban Institute and co-founder of the Tax Policy Center. We don't have good data on the changes in the value of assets that people are holding, he said. Moreover, income tax revenue for the government may be volatile without limits on annual loss deductions. There could be trillions of dollars in losses in a year, Berman said, but the measure may still have a significant impact depending on the limitations and phase-outs, he said. It really eliminates the main avenues that people can use to avoid capital gains tax, said Berman. However, with pushback from centrist Democrats and Republicans, it's unclear which proposals may make it into the final version of the budget. Wyden proposed a mark-to-market plan in 2019 and delivered a white paper calling for a levy on taxpayers making more than $1 million in income or with $10 million in assets. Earlier this year, Democrats, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, DMAS, and Senator Bernie Sanders, proposed a 3% annual tax on wealth of more than $1 billion. So here's the thing that you got to understand too, right? Even though you have people like saying that they're only going to tax the super wealthy, that is never actually how it ends up happening, right? For those that end up like stumbling upon this or like listening to this, what you got to understand is that they never stop at what they actually say that they're going to do, right? No matter what, no matter who it is, no matter what side they're on, they never stop at what they say they are proposing to do, right? Which means they might say that they're trying to go after the billionaires right now, but they're going to word the legal document in such a way that literally every single taxpayer is going to be screwed over in this situation, because that's what happens every single time, okay? And here's the thing, right? Technically speaking, anyone, and I do mean anyone can basically do what these billionaires are actually doing, where they are basically making it so that they actually have like no income, right? And it's a lot easier if you have your own business, right? But still, at the same time, If you show that you have no income for the year, guess what? You don't got to pay taxes, right? Or if they show that if you show that you basically, and again, this is like more so for businesses, but technically people can still do this as well, where you basically show that you actually lose more money than you make, right? You could, in a sense, basically get away with not really paying taxes, right? And I really don't like the idea of putting in like legal documents trying to tax people on their wealth, because their wealth is so much different than their income, right? And look, a lot of people don't even understand this too. A lot of these like CEOs, even like smaller CEOs, legally speaking, they're not even allowed to sell some of their shares per year, or they're like capped at how many can they sell per year, right? Meaning you're going to force them to pay taxes on things that they can't even access to end up paying taxes on the stuff, right? Because a lot of these like CEOs are kind of cash poor. And what I mean by that is like what they typically end up doing, or at least what you could see even from like their IRS thing that got leaked, is that a lot of them basically show that they're basically making pretty much nothing. Like their income is pretty much nothing, but their wealth is massive and their wealth continuously increases. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they actually have that money, right? Because really they can only like access that money once they sell it, and then as soon as they sell it, they have to pay taxes on it as well, right? So it's a very weird thing, and like the tax system is so broken. And here's the thing, it's a very simple way that you could just solve the tax system, right? Just make it a flat tax for every single individual with no deductions for anyone, not for businesses, not for anyone. And there you go. Solve the tax problem. Why? Because it makes things very simple and easy to do. And if you don't allow for any tax exemptions, right? Meaning like you're not allowed to like write off things, well then guess what? That's going to allow the government to collect more money long term, right? Because so many people, regardless of how much money you make, can do tax write-offs for various things, and it can potentially, save you a lot of money on your taxes. But like if everyone has like a 10% tax, like flat tax, right? Like, and I mean everyone, and just like as you make more money, you pay more in taxes, right? Because it's like, again, it's a 10% of your income. It just keeps things very simple, and it makes it like, okay, well, I know how much you're paying in taxes. You know how much I'm paying in taxes. Everyone knows how much everyone's paying in taxes, so you don't end up dealing with any of this nonsense, right? And again, you shouldn't really change the whole like wealth situation, because again, it never really focuses purely on just the billionaires. It's going to trickle down to individuals as well, meaning that your 401ks, your Roth IRAs, that you're just working at like a job, right? You're going to get screwed on that, right? That means you're going to potentially have to pay taxes on your investments that you've done, that you were matched in your job, right? So the thing that could potentially pretty much guarantee that you'll be a millionaire by the time you retire, you're going to get taxed on top of getting taxed on it. So it's like, it's just a pain in the butt, right? Like every time politicians try to like mess with people's investments, and again, I understand that they're claiming that they're trying to go after the billionaires, but again, you got to understand, it never ends that way. Like it never ends that way. Okay? You got to understand that. And this is for any side, left, right, center. No matter what they say that they're going to try to do, it's never truly what they say that they're going to do. They're always going to word it in a way, right, to have more effect, or kind of be like open-ended, right? Meaning they have a little bit more reach and a little bit more control than what they claimed that they were actually going to originally try to do. And that's something that people really need to understand, is that every time you add more restrictions or add more taxes or add more control on the government's not going to take it back. They're just going to keep on increasing the amount of power they have over people, right? Because they're going to try to keep on making as much money as possible, increase their control over people, and yada yada, right? But one way to just basically not really care what happens when it comes to politicians is to get debt free, so that you can live a much more free life regardless of what happens when it comes to politicians. So if you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40inbox.com.